Hello, this is a quick video tutorial for my All Good Things Cowl, which is a herringbone cowl knitted with Scheepjes Wanderlust. It's a very simple pattern, but I think that it could be confusing to some, so I'm just going to do this video to show the main stitch pattern. I'll also go through how to add your edging if you choose to add it, the icord edging. First thing you need to remember when making this cowl is herringbone requires loose stitches. I've already gone up in size, in needle size for this cowl to help with that, but if you're a tight knitter, you need to really force yourself to knit loosely, even on the larger needles. I used a 6mm for this, and that's quite a lot more than the yarn calls for, and I still knit more loosely than my natural tension. While working this, I had to get in a different type of flow, and you will as well. If you have trouble with that, I would continue going up in needle size. This is a bit difficult to get gauge for, so if you do find that you keep having to go up because you work so tightly, you need to remember that this may affect the overall size of your cowl. In that case, I would buy the 3 balls rather than the 2, just to make sure you have enough to create a cowl that is the right size for you. Now, before I start, I have to say my phone is perched rather precariously on a box that I'm trying to reach around, so I may be a little shaky or awkward when I'm trying to work this. I've made the smallest swatch on earth so that I can show you how this works without having to do too many stitches in this awkward position. This is your right side of your work. This is the right side of the herringbone. You're going to find that your cast on edge, when you're working your first row into that cast on edge, it's going to feel tight and awkward. There's not much you can do to prevent that. You just kind of got to struggle through it, get through it, remember to work loosely, and it'll get better from there. So on your right side row, you do a slip, slip, knit at the beginning of every right side row. Okay, slip, slip, then you knit those two together, and you're only going to slip off the first loop. Okay, every following stitch is slip as if to purl, slip as if to knit. Knit two together. So it's basically a slip, slip, knit, only the first slip is done purl-wise rather than knit-wise. Slip only the first stitch off. All the way across. Slip as if to purl, slip as if to knit, knit the two together, remembering, keep it loose. Don't yank on your working yarn. Slip as if to purl, slip as if to knit, knit those two together. Sometimes I'll put my finger here to stop any kind of slippage that I don't want. Slip the first one off. If you do find, oh, that one slipped off too, it's very easy. If you look here, you can see 2 stitches. 1, 2. If you come from behind where your working yarn is, you can see these 2 stitches. You're just going to pick up this one. Pick up the second one, and you're right back where you started. Slip as if to purl, slip as if to knit, knit 2 together, slip the first one. Slip as if to purl, slip as if to knit, knit 2 together. Whoop, see, look, there, see it happened to me. Just pick that one up. Slip as if to purl, slip as if to knit, the first one, slip as if to purl, slip as if to knit them together. So you're going through the front there, slip the first one, purl, knit, slip the first one. You do that all the way across, and I'll show you in just a sec what you do when you get to the end. So you have your 2 stitches left, you work them just the same, slip as if to purl, slip as if to knit. Now you slip off your first stitch. You have one stitch left on your needles. Just knit that through the back loop. And there you have it. That's your right side row done. Turn your work. And the other side, don't worry about this big stitch, that'll sort itself out. The other side is very simple. No difference in the start or the middle. Sometimes the first one can be a little fiddly. You're going to purl two together. Again, keeping it loose. Slip off only the first stitch. Purl two together. Sorry, this is very awkward. I'm trying to reach around this box, but slip only the first one off. Purl two together. Slip only the first one off. If, like I said, it goes, look, you have two stitches. Top one, I hope this is in focus. I've not been paying attention to what's in focus, but hopefully you can see. You have the two stitches there, top one, bottom one. Just pick this one up. See? And you work across. Purl two together. Don't yank your working yarn. You can always use that first finger on your right hand to help you keeping these stitches in place as you're slipping that first stitch off. Oh. You'll get in a much better flow when you're working. I actually, in the end, could work this quite quickly when I was sitting properly. I did only a few stitches, but it feels like it's forever to get across here. Okay, now you're at the end. You slip that one off. You've got two stitches. Purl them together. Oh, missed. Again, purl them together. Slip the first one off, then you just purl the last one, just like normal. Again, don't worry about your little flubby stitch here. It'll work itself out. And that's the two rows. You've created your right side row, which is one part of the herringbone, and your wrong side row, which is the other part. I apologize for anything that may have gone out of focus. I was watching myself rather than the phone, but I will be back in a moment to show you how to do your edge. Okay, so you've made the bulk of your cowl. You have all of the herringbone done. You haven't attached the ends yet to make it a loop. Now what you're going to do is you're going to work your two edges to create your I-cord, which you can see here. This goes all along the edge, which also will change color probably, but it won't match the actual cowl, but that's okay. It's a very tidy edge, and I really like the way it looks. I chose very specific stitches for where I pick up on my cowl, because what I wanted to create is a neat edge here under where the I-cord is attached. You can see it's very tidy there, as opposed to this example where you can see you have all these little lines here. It just, to me at least, doesn't look as tidy. So the way I did the edge, if you look at my miniature swatch, is I picked up two very specific stitches. And now remember, when you're doing this, you go down to a 4mm, or I guess 2 sizes below what you used for the main cowl. I used a 6mm for the cowl. I used a 4mm for the I-cord edging. Okay, let me see if I can get this in focus properly. Okay, when you look at the side of your cowl, you'll see you have what I call slips and bumps. You see here? Slip, bump, slip, bump. Slip, bump. It's the same on the other side. It looks slightly different. I've still got my needles hanging there. you can see slip, bump, slip, bump, slip. Can you see that? See, here's a bump, slip, bump. Pull them out a bit so you can see bump, bump. So those are the stitches that you're going to work into. It's basically 2 stitches for every herringbone section, a slip and a bump. Now this is a bit awkward. I've already cast on because it was difficult to do at the angle that I'm working. What you're going to do is you're going to cast on 3 stitches. Whatever cast on method you choose, I use a long tail cast on, but it doesn't really matter. You're going to cast on 3 stitches, and then you're going to take your, you know what, I'm going to pull this off my needles, because it doesn't matter if it unravels as it's only a swatch. Then you're going to take your work. Now this is going to seem really weird as you get started, but again, as you get in the flow, it'll be just fine. So you have your 4mm needles, 3 stitches cast on, you have your swatch. You're going to take your left needle, and I started here, not at the very edge. You can, but you may get a little overhang. Start in this bump. You just pick it up. Now, slip those 3 stitches onto your left needle. Now what you're basically doing is you're knitting an I-cord edge, but you're just picking up the stitches as you go. So it's an applied I-cord. In theory, you could pick up bump, slip onto your left needle and then work them all, but I found that a bit difficult because as you're picking them up, they're getting tighter because the needle is pulling them out. I found it easier to work them one at a time. Now, you have your 3 that you cast on and your 1 stitch that's on your work. You're going to knit 2. Now again, don't mind if this feels fiddly in the start, because it's fiddly for me now, especially at this strange. Okay, you knit 2, and then knit 2 together through the back loop. So you're knitting your 3rd stitch together with the 1 stitch that you've picked up. Voila. You let them both slip off with this, not like the herringbone. So now what you do is you go back to your work. You just picked up a bump at the first. Now you're going to pick up your slip. See? Slip, bump, slip, bump. Pick it up. Slide the 3 stitches onto your left needle. And just repeat what you did before. Knit. I hope I don't look as shaky on the video as I feel. Knit 2. That one will sometimes hang down lower, but that's fine because when you go through this stitch, you can just pick that one up as well. See, you've got those 2 together. Knit them together through the back loop. And you're back where you started. You're ready for your next bump. See, bump. Pick it up, slip those 3, knit 2, sorry, my things are scraping against the box. See, you've got your 2 stitches, knit them together through the back, knit them together through the back loop properly and say it properly. And you continue doing that. You can see your I-cord starting to form here. So you just keep going, picking up your slip, picking up your bump. Slip, see? Bump, slip, bump. And you continue doing that all the way across. I will be back in a moment. Okay. I was a little afraid my phone was going to stop itself and I was going to lose this whole video, so I've decided to stop partway through. But let's just pretend you went all the way across working as I showed you. You can see the I-cord here. See, it's very neat across there, the way it's attached. You don't get any of these strange lines, which is what these slips cause if you don't pick them up. You see, you end up with this sort of long stretched line across. Now, when you're working your icord and you get to the end, let's just pretend all of this doesn't exist. And you're on your last thing that you pick up. This is your last stitch that you're picking up. You do like normal. Slip those 3. Knit 2. Knit 2 together through back loop. And you're just going to knit 1. You haven't picked up another stitch because there isn't another one left. Knit 2 together through the back loop. Knit those 2 together. And you'll cut that, pull it through. And when it comes time to take this around, when you make your cowl, you'll have a little bit extra there, but you can just tack that down together with the other end. And it'll look just like normal because this will just create a bit of a seam. You'll have a very, very little seam. Let me have a look here. You can see where I sewed mine together. And then you just tack these together on the end. See, your colors probably won't end up matching, but that's okay. And that's it. You have a cowl. That's all there is to it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. You always know where to find me on Facebook or Instagram. You can always send me a message through Ravelry. But it's all pretty straightforward once you get going. It seems fiddly, but give it a go. And let me know how you get along. Enjoy!